Okay, I feel like this all comes down to how we're defining harm, and I think you stepped out, Brian, when we were talking about this. But she essentially said she doesn't see being as the worst thing that can happen to someone. Now the rest of us, I think, would disagree, which is why we would say men are the primary victim. But if you kind of implied that what you thought was the repercussions of seeing people you love, your husbands, boyfriends, them dying, that could be more harmful. So by her scale of what's the most harmful, then she is right. But by ours, which is what most logical people would think, is that killing is the worst thing that can happen to someone.
Well, no, hold on. No. I even reject her scale of what's the most harmful.
Well, I disagree with it too.
I totally reject this idea that, well, men die, but the lingering effects are more harmful than those deaths experienced by men. It's ridiculous.
I think then the conversation just has to be, what is the worst thing that can happen to someone? Because she just is not going by her definition.
Okay,
that would be different for every person, though.
We're not going to linger on it for any longer, but I have two more questions. Two more questions, then we're going to move on. Okay. So, my dear, who was the primary victim of war in World War I, men or women?
Women.
Okay.
But I don't get why the war is going to change the outcome.
Okay. Who was the primary victim? Hold on. Okay. Who was the primary victim of World War II? Oh my God. Who was the primary victim of World War II? Men or women?
Women.
You're crazy.
Bro, oh my God.
I don't know why which war is going to change.
You conceded that the Ukraine war, it was men, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, those things I list, like the three examples I gave you, there were similar things occurring in World War I, World War II, and pretty much all world wars that ever existed. The women get to leave, the women are protected, the men are forced to go and die.
Well, I just think there's a big, again, I use the term think because I don't know. Right? I don't know.
What do you mean you do know? That you can literally look at Wikipedia. Number of military deaths, World War I. Number of military deaths, World War II. What percentage are women? What percentage are men? The military deaths are almost exclusively men in these conflicts.
There is more civilian deaths, though.
What?
I looked it up. There is more civilian deaths overall.
More total civilian deaths?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, including men and women.
Of course.
Okay, so...
Because you always use the case of only military. But
here, let's do this. Let's say that there's 20 million military deaths and they're all men.
Okay.
And then there's 20 million civilian deaths and 10 million are women and 10 million are men. So 30 million men versus 10 million women. In that situation, who's the primary victim of war?
If we're only going by the standard of death, nothing else is a factor, then yes, men. If nothing else is a standard, nothing else is happening as like...
What else is happening?
Like just any of, like I said, any other thing that you could...
Which would also happen to male civilians.
Not as much as it's happening to female civilians.
You're talking about SA?
Yeah.
So let's say there's 100,000 women get SA'd, and then there's 10 million civilian deaths for both genders, and then there's 20 million male-only military deaths. You're saying that the 100,000 SAs tips the scale for women being the primary victims of war.
I didn't say just the SA alone was like the reason why I thought that
So
way.
what other things that are exclusively happening to women besides that? If I grant you that women are disproportionately being SA'd, what other bad things are only happening to women?
So in this argument, you're saying only happening to women. So your claim is that because military, it's predominantly men, that's the only happening to men in the military. Like I'm trying to
let me ask you a question.
Those two.
If you could, this is almost like a trolley dilemma, sort of. Trolley problem. So, if you could, are you familiar with the trolley dilemma?
No.
Okay, you have a choice, right? You pull a lever, it either kills this trolley, it's going along a track, it would otherwise kill 5 people. If you pull the lever, it would kill 1. So I'm going to give you a sort of kind of trolley dilemma. So 100 women get essayed, or you can pull the lever. You can choose, instead of that happening, 50 million men die. Which do you pick?
The 100 women in that case.
What do you mean?
In that case that you gave me 100 women I would choose. But again,
You would choose that they...
yeah, if that
happens to them.
Yeah.
Okay. What about 10 million men?
Again, what you said, sure, I'll choose the 100.
Okay. What about 100,000 to 100,000?
Death versus
Mm-hmm.
we don't know the extent of like either of those though.
100,000 die, and it's a 20-minute, and obviously there's trauma going on beyond that, but that's the comparison.
Killer of Serial donated $100. Women will only die if all the carnage from the war zones find their way to the densely populated cities, unless women agree to suit up, strap up, and stick to trenches on the front lines. Any takers?
Wait, hold on. I actually have. Thank you, Killer of Serial. Any takers, ladies? Here, let's talk about. Okay, World War II. You know the United Kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
UK. So they're an island nation. So Germany, while they bombed, there were aerial attacks on various British cities. Germany never did a land invasion of the UK.
Okay.
So there was no SA in the UK. There were civilian deaths. Bear in mind, there's male civilians and female civilians. So looking at World War II, looking at the populace of Great Britain, who was the primary victim of World War II? Great British men or Great British women?
The men.
Why?
Because if nothing is happening other than the harm of their family members, of a lot of the citizens, yeah, in that case.
I think I'm going to call that a checkmate. Is that a checkmate? That might be a checkmate.
No, it's not a checkmate.
I think I got you there.
It's not a checkmate because of...
Gotcha, bitch.
Again, it's what she said too. So what you
Was that a
define
checkmate,
is a
chat?
victim.
I think
They're
that's a
gonna agree with
W.
you no matter what,
That's
okay?
a big W.
Let's not ask chat.
That's a big W for the Whatever podcast, right? I think. Hello?